Hello everyone, this is Aki the Great, and patch 1.11 just came out, so in this video I'm going to be talking a bit about some of the changes that I think are particularly important, and then I'm going to talk about the best decks to play. One particular archetype is being pushed by these patch notes, and it's being theorized that that is the sort of best deck to play by far, and I'm going to talk about that deck alongside some of what I think are going to be the meta responses to that deck. Before we get started, check the description if you are interested in coaching. I would be happy to help you, navigate the new meta, help you climb to whatever that next rank is. So if you're interested, please check that out. So, we got a lot of important cards changed. Of course, we see that Aurelian Soul's level up is a little harder. We see Jack the Winner's health being reduced to make Bilgewater less of a mid-range strategy, but there are some particularly important changes. The first one I would say that's particularly important is Radiant Guardian. Lifesteal is a very, very strong mechanic in Legends of Runeterra, especially in decks that try to use Radiant Guardian, generally like Lux and, slower, maybe even sometimes mid-range Demacia decks. And honestly, Radiant Guardian is just insanely good at curbing aggro, and bringing down its power is not going to destroy the card, but I think will bring it down to the realm of reasonability. So the other important change is Petty Officer. So Petty Officer was one of the best Bilgewater cards, I would say. It was an auto-include in a lot of aggro and mid-range and sometimes even control strategies like Keg Control. It's just a very flexible card, and that was when it was changed to 2 health. Now it's being changed back to 1 health, which makes some sense, given the direction that Bilgewater was heading. So, of course, we got a change to Hush, which is, as they say in this last paragraph, it's just going to be a temporary change, because they're going to basically find a way to make Hush non-repeatable. So this is sort of going to be a temporary change to the deck, or to the card. And then we have Mountain Goat, got changed to 2 health, which makes it a usable card. And we'll see that it's seeing some play already in some important decks. But I'd say probably the most important change out of all of these is Bastion. So Bastion used to only give Spell Shield for the turn. And now it not only gives that Spell Shield permanently, and of course that'll run out once that unit is targeted with a spell, but it also gets +1/+1. So this is insanely important because now Bastion can be used in a flexible way, and I think it sort of fully realizes what Targon had wanted to be, which is to be able to protect a unit to get consistent value out of it without worrying about hard removal. But there's the argument to be made that this is a bit of an overstep, and the reason for this is a deck that a lot of top players have been talking about, which is this kind of Lee Sin, potentially Zed, all-in deck. So Lee Sin Targon had existed before, but now with this change to Bastion, basically going all in on the Lee Sin strategy, even potentially putting in Zed as this list. This is Swimstrim's current list. These 2 cards together end up sort of blowing out opponents, and because of the way the Bastion works, there's very little counterplay. You have things like Eyes of the Dragon, or Eye of the Dragon, and you also have even sometimes like Claws of the Dragon, if we can pull that up. Claws of the Dragon here. Some lists are running that version of the deck. But basically, the game plan is if you have a Zed with Lee Sin, then you're going for sort of an aggressive combo-y finisher on the opponent, with the potential for Lee Sin to blow out in the late game once he levels up. Zenith Blade is used as sort of pivotal to the late game strategies of the deck, because Zed giving his clone overwhelm when he levels up, Lee Sin when he levels up being able to both dragon kick the unit he challenges, and attacking in with that overwhelm damage is super important. So there's just endless potential to this type of deck, and people are saying that it is going to be probably the most dominant strategy. So I want to talk a little bit about what I think will be the counters to this deck. Because I think even though this deck is super strong, and you'll see a lot of different types of it out there, I think there are going to be some decks that stand up to it to some extent. And I think that those decks are primarily going to be faster decks. So we'll start with this one. I think that Fearsome Burn. So this is a list for Fearsome Burn. I don't have my own Fearsome Burn list yet, but this is a good stand-in for what I think something like that would look like. Essentially, what I think is something that puts a lot of power on the board early, and bricks blockers early, and then once the Lee Sin deck comes online by maybe placing down Lee Sin, maybe having some Eye of the Dragonlings coming out to heal up a little bit more, at that point you want to be finishing off the game with the burn spells. So ultimately, I think that that this deck probably has the best chance against this deck, because not every version of this deck is going to be running Claws of the Dragon, and Claws of the Dragon is really the only real counterplay to this archetype, because as you can see here, with Mountain Goat is able to block out some damage, but there aren't too many 3-attack minions. Of course, you can use gems with this deck to buff up a minion to be able to block some of the early aggression that Fearsome Burn might put out, but generally you don't want to be wasting your gems early. So I think this deck probably has the best shot at being able to just get minions on the board when minions can matter, and then use burn strategies to just finish off the opponent, especially with like Doom Beast, Imperial Demolitionist. There's just a lot of different ways to get there. Just using all these different burn tools to actually finish off the opponent. So that is Fearsome Burn. I think the next promising deck against Lee Sin or Lee Sin Zed is going to be Ashe Sejuani. So we've seen this list be very dominant in the past, with Ashe Midrange just kind of being an amazing archetype all around. And now with the addition of Troll Chant, I believe that this deck can still find some good matchups. So this version of the deck has some weird cards that I think might actually help it. So Rime Fang Wolf is one of them. I think what you want to be doing against Lee Sin Zed is just threatening their important units a lot, and you can use these freeze effects to really brick out a lot of the things that the deck wants to do, which I think is really, really helpful. Culling Strike is a kind of important tool in the deck, because you can imagine that even though Bastion is a very, very good card, things like Flash Freeze from Ashe being on the field, Harsh Winds, Brittle Steel, even Ice Veil Archer, all these things are going to basically threaten even the spell shield of something like a Lee Sin. So I think that this deck has the highest chance of being able to actually remove Lee Sin or Zed in the early stages of the game, while also having the potential to block a lot of the early aggression of the deck with Zed out on the field. You have Omen Hawk, Avarosan Sentry, Ice Veil Archer is a great example. Even Trifarian Glory Seeker can threaten a Zed very early on. So that's a good example of that. And the last one I want to look at is Pirate Aggro. Pirate Aggro has been kind of a constantly prevalent deck in the newest expansion after Call of the Mountain was released. You see a lot of this deck in the meta. So of course, similar to Fearsome Burn, you have a lot of burn tools that basically aid in climbing in general because it makes a lot of games shorter. But I think burn is going to be specifically important against the Lee Sin Zed deck, because if you try to count on your board to be able to finish off the opponent's Nexus, then you're going to find that Lee Sin is able to easily deal with that, or you'll just get out-tempoed by a gigantic Zed. So that's why I think this deck probably has a good chance of being able to overpower it. But keep in mind that this deck got hit with nerfs in patch 1.11. Of course, Jack the Winner got brought down to 5 health, and it's down here, Petty Officer was reverted to 1 health again. So so these two cards are going to operate a little bit differently in the upcoming meta. But I think this is nonetheless probably one of your best bets against Lee Sin Zed. So I hope that this was helpful. Of course, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. And also, if you are interested in coaching, again, look in the description below. The link to my coaching service is there. I want to help you understand this meta because that's some of the most fun you can have in this game. So I've been Aki the Great. Good luck on your climb.